Welcome everybody.
It's a dark and stormy night.
So, who here has watched Power Rangers? Almost everybody. Awesome. Who here has watched the original Japanese version, Super Sentai? Half of you and half of you have not. Excellent. Well, I hope you learn a few things about this. So, actually, Sam, you can just take a seat. So you're not standing in everyone's way. So, in the 1970s, Shotaro Ishinomori started a series called Kamen Rider, which was a superhero franchise that took off. So Toei had him create Super Sentai, which the original series was called Go Ranger. It was about 5 guys in colored spandex fighting evil. Then a big event came in the late 70s that would revolutionize the science fiction genre. Anyone know what that was? Star Wars. So Japan started to do a lot of science fiction storytelling. You had Gundam, you had Star Blazers, all these other series that were set in the future, Macross, Go Lion, and so forth. The Sentai was also influenced by the arrival of Star Wars, and a lot of the stories, a lot of the villains were science fiction based. A lot of them dealt with aliens coming to invade Earth. Sometimes the Rangers were aliens themselves, sometimes they were not. Then in 1991, a man who had been helming Sentai since the early 80s, named Hirohise Soda, retired with the series called 5 Man in 1990. It was his final series. Well, as such, and also because technically a decade works from the year 1 to 10, I am covering the series from 1991 to 2000. So comes the 1990s. Sentai was starting to have some stagnant ratings because the series were starting to get stale as the 80s progressed. Ratings were getting lower, so Toei decided, with Soda leaving the series after, I want to say 8 years, it was time to try something new, something revolutionary, something experimental. So first, they started with Jetman, which was a homage to Gatchaman. And then it evolved from there, trying different stuff. And I've broken these series up by themes. There are military themes, there's vehicle themes, fantasy themes, technology themes, and martial arts. So first, for military themes, there's 2 series built on this, which is Jetman, as I said, was a Gatchaman homage, and another series called Old Ranger, which was meant to be an anniversary series of Sentai, but due to the sarin gas attacks in Japan, they ended up changing the show around after episode 8 because of it. So here are a little bit of clips from that. First, can everybody in the back hear me? Okay. So the next set are vehicle themes. And for these series, we have Car Ranger, and Go-Go 5. Go-Go 5 Go-Go 5 was a series about a family of 5 brothers and a sister that were workers for medical. There was a fire engine, one worked for the police, one worked as a nurse, and it was a family-themed series. The other series, Car Ranger, however, was made because, from what has been said, because O-Ranger at the time was the lowest rated Sentai show of all time. So Toei told their writers, do whatever you want, have fun with it, this could possibly be the final season. So Car Ranger is a parody series. Everything about it is silly. And interestingly enough, those that know Power Rangers Turbo nearly killed Power Rangers in America. They took it serious. Well, Car Ranger was a huge success in Japan to the point where Toei has been going ever since with Sentai regardless of ratings. Toy sales are also the main factor. So here are some clips from these shows.
世界の平和心に誓う燃えるレスキュー魂救急戦隊ゴーゴーファイブ出場ブルーレーサーグリーンレーサーイエローレーサーピンクレーサー戦うフォーツなんで正義は必ず勝つんや。なんか俺ってめちゃめちゃかっこええやん。あ、そのうちもう一回とこう。正義は必ず勝つんや。勝つんや。あれ？勝つんや。そうや。勝つんや。お前これぐらいオーバーな方がかっこいいやろ。ね、次からこれでいこう。アクセルベースがない。あ、なんじゃ、おい、シャレだな。
It really is as silly as it seems. It's actually a very funny series that makes no sense.
And they just have fun and do all these sorts of things that, like I said, it's a parody that mocks Japanese culture. There's a character in it that has magical girl powers. And her powers keep changing every time she appears. Like, she's able to turn her car in one episode into a giant mech.
And you know, you're having fun with your series when you cast a porn star as the main villain.
Yeah.
Yes.
That became a theme ever since Car Ranger, too. If you ever see Geki Ranger, the main lead for the villains, he is also a porn star, which I truly enjoy.
Now I've got 2 series here that are fantasy themed. So after 1991's Jetman, Toei decided to completely throw everything out the window and went with a fantasy series, Kyoru Sentai Jewel Ranger, which came to America as the first season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. This series was also the first Sentai series to evolve to try out a dinosaur form. Also, the other series that's fantasy themed is Gingamon, which, for those of you who are familiar with her work, Yosuke Kobayashi was the head writer. She has done things like Attack on Titan's anime version. She did Claymore's anime version.
No.
And that's another panel. So here are some clips from those 2 shows.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, here it comes. It's my turn next.
I never thought about it until he did this, how much he actually looks like, they actually all look like Charlie Brown. Good grief.
Now, the next series is what I call technology themed ones. These include Time Ranger and Mega Ranger. Mega Ranger is about a group of high school kids that become rangers, and the government was using a video game to find out who would be the best compatible people to be these rangers. Time Ranger is about a group of cops from the future, from the 30th century, that come back because a villain, a crime boss named Doronero comes back in time, and they come back to stop him. And they recruit the ancestor of their who would be essentially their Red Ranger.
And to date, Time Ranger is still the most accurate adaptation of a Sentai.
For Power Rangers?
Yes.
Yeah, Power Rangers Time Force was pretty accurate to Time Ranger.
I actually just thought of it as reverse Futurama.
Yeah. The next two series that were martial arts themed were 1993's Gosei Sentai Dai Ranger and Ninja Sentai Kaku Ranger. Both of these have similar themes, but they're completely different series. Dai Ranger adapts a lot of Chinese mythology and Chinese lore. You have Ryu Ranger, who is meant to symbolize the Azure Dragon from the Chinese mythology. There's a turtle that's representing the turtle, also in Japan known as Genbu. The White Tiger. Now, interestingly enough, the White Tiger is seen in Japan, often was mistaken as a Kirin, giving Kiringer, whereas Western ideologies saw the Kirin as a unicorn, Tenma Ranger. And then there's a phoenix for Ho-Oh Ranger. One of this, and then of course we got Kiba Ranger, who's the white tiger. One of the significances about Die Ranger is it is one of the series that have the lowest amount of filler episodes, as most of the series is pretty consistent in storytelling. It is also the first series to have a fight and an entire episode that they never transform once.
I also like the fact that Kiba Ranger is a 12-year-old boy,
A pervert.
and then we have Tommy in the Power Rangers version, and they don't mesh very well because Kiba Ranger's really short and Tommy's not.
So also, Kaku Ranger, because of the way how dark Die Ranger gets, think of it as the Zeta Gundam of Sentai. The Kaku Ranger, like Double Zeta, starts out comedic and gets much more serious as the series progresses. So it's broken up into 2 arcs. There is a narrator that will come in and talk about what's going on. The villains are yokai, so he will introduce what each yokai represents
Kind of
for
like
the first half.
G-Gundam.
And Kaku Ranger gives the new meaning to pussy in a spandex.
And it's also the first series that the female ranger was the leader of the team. So here are videos for that.
忍者レッド発生忍者ホワイトテレビで忍者イエロー正解忍者ブルー最高忍者ブラック忍者やより隠れて悪を切る忍者戦隊隠れた軍団ユレンジャー戦火戦ヨーシレンジャー電源戦大悟天馬レンジャー天獣戦少子セミンレンジャー電気戦ハッ
フォーレンジャー旋風戦リン
天に輝くレッドボス五霊戦隊ガレンジャーリベンジャー天下戦ヨーシュート天元戦大悟天馬レンジャー天竜戦少子イリンレンジャー天竜戦ハッ
フォーレンジャー旋風戦リン
天に輝くイッツボス五霊戦隊ガレンジャー
And also in Die Ranger, the lion is another mythological beast from Chinese lore. So now in the 90s, they introduce the permanent 6 Rangers. In the 80s, there was a series called Masked Man, which introduced the 6th Ranger for 1 episode. His suit was actually a prototype, and he is basically destroyed by the end of that episode. So comes 1992's Jew Ranger. We get introduced to the first 6th Ranger, Dragon Ranger. And a lot of the earlier Sentai shows, the 6th Rangers wouldn't be there to always be with the team. He would show up when he was needed to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And that's exactly that. When that happened, it made it feel special when the 6th Ranger came on screen. Because he wasn't there every episode, and he was always kicking the monster's ass. A lot of the things that go on today is the 6th Ranger shows up, he becomes a permanent member, and he's supposed to be the most powerful member of the team, but then he ends up being depowered after like 4 or 5 episodes. So here are clips of the 6th Rangers from the 90s.
太陽さくら守るべきだワン地獄行けレンジャーオーバーキルはっ
Killing spree. Overkill. Double kill. Kill-tacular.
どうして俺たちと戦うんだ。
Untouchable. Extermination. Flawless victory.
体が大きくなった。
子供のままじゃバカにされっからな。
よし、いいこと思いついた。キラ。
見たかゴーマ、ここにおわすを誰だと心得る。我らが正義の味方、超新星騎馬レンジャー様だ。行くぞ、超力変身。
レンジャー言っといたろ。何が起こっても何も心配することはないってな。よしレンジャー、今日から俺様がお前たちの最強の敵だ。剣取りだ。 優先の相手はお前に決まりだ。シルバーレイザー、ソードモード、スワースリアガンモード。タイムレンジャーか。さあな、それより練習台になってほしいんだがな。何しろ初めてだから。なんだと、ふざけるなゼイト。さてと、追っ始めますか。
最初で最後にしてやる死ね
Alrighty, for a sticker of Die Ranger, what is Time Fire's real color in Japan? Because he's not a Red Ranger.
Crimson?
No. I'll give one more chance. Okay, take a shot in the dark if you have to.
Can I just say dark red?
Nope, he's considered a Black Ranger actually.
Yep. Okay. So,
Well, actually, here's a bonus question, just because I want to give everybody a chance. Who's the actual leader in Time Ranger? Okay, you first.
Time Pink.
yes. And those of you who just joined recently, I do have a copy of Die Ranger I'm going to be giving away at the end of the panel. Brand new from Shout Factory.
Yes, it's still in its packaging because I didn't open it for once.
Okay, so more of the Sentais in the 90s had a lot of characters that would help the Rangers, but they don't qualify as a 6th Ranger. These include several characters such as Bo Black, or those who know only the Power Rangers version, Magda Defender, Ninja or Ninja Man. And interestingly also, Car Ranger has 2 allies that don't truly count as a 6th Ranger, and that's Insigno Man and VRV Master, which was the Phantom Ranger in Power Rangers. Also, Go-Go 5, their companion, so to speak, was a giant mecha shuttle.
何キロオーバーだと思ってんの？はい、免許証見せて。ちょっと待ってくださいよ。暴族の方はいいんですか？どうして宇宙洪水戦争を引き起こしている宇宙暴走族暴族を知ってる？まあ一応君の名前は？俺は激走戦隊カーレンジャーのレッドレーサーです。激走戦隊カーレンジャーレッドレーサー？
力によって巨大化し、中期しフルブラックとなる。
So first, does anyone know, for Ninja Man, which voice in One Piece he does? I'll give you a hint. It's one of Luffy's crew, one of the newer members.
Is it Frankie?
Yep. Alright, so the mecha throughout the 80s, when Sentai first started, the mecha was just a bunch of vehicles. It wasn't until the 1977 Toei Spider-Man series, when they put in a transforming mecha, did Sentai actually start to do that. So, but they continued having mecha that was just vehicles. Then they did, Live Man came out in '88 and was the first series to actually have animal formed mecha. In the 90s, they started to really go advanced with their mecha. A lot of the mechs lost their blockiness, where they looked like just cardboard people were wearing, had
Except
more
for
angles. And also it was when they started to up the mech count as the 90s went on, because they were such high sellers of toys. So I have here a compilation of some of the mecha, but I can't cover everything for mecha because they would just take up their own panel on their own. see the mechs continue to evolve throughout the decade. They also started to use a lot of CGI, which doesn't look all that great.
Tokuger, anyone?
Nevertheless, it was an evolution for the series. Time Ranger Alpha Beta was the first time a mecha had two different forms from the same machines. Well, finally we come to the really fun stuff. The villains. Villains are everywhere. And in these shows, like I said, in the 80s, a lot of the villains were science fiction based. They were aliens with the occasional deviation, but most part, aliens. The 90s had a great variety of monsters of mythology. You did have aliens. You had mechanical beings. You had demons of the earth. Criminals from the future.
Before we...
Everyday objects being monsters. Yokai of Japanese lore. Every series had something. Car Ranger has Car Ranger has a biker gang. Ginga Man has space pirates. What were you going to say?
Before we start the villains, Eddie, for a sticker, I know it's so awesome, who can tell me what Rita Repulsa's actual name was in Japanese?
Pandora?
Yes.
What was it?
Pandora.
It says we're under castle too. If I remember right.
Yeah. When you watch Power Rangers, it says Bandra's Palace on her castle. They could never change the name because it was on there.
Villains question really quick. In Time Ranger, for Power Rangers, the villain was in what movie franchise that Mel Gibson starred in?
It was Mad Max.
Yes.
Who here is a Villains fan?
Villains are awesome.
Do you have a favorite villain?
It's hard to say.
You can say any villain you want.
I really like Bosco. But I'll
Oh, from Gokaiger.
I'll take Operate Killer too.
Oh, Operate Killer.
Here.
Brilliant.
Gotta get that wrong.
Seriously, you're giving him a sticker just because he's your favorite villain?
He's not my favorite, but one of them.
Okay. What's your question, my dear?
Actually, I was just going to say a favorite. I'd probably have to say Professor Bias, live man.
Ooh.
Wow, that's
Also-
going old school.
Yeah, live man from the 80s. Professor Bias, his actor was actually Joji Nakata, who voices Alucard and Helsing, the Count of Monte Cristo and Gankutsu, and many, many other villains.
He's actually one of the villains currently in Zyuohger right now, too.
So, villains. Let's show the video.
面白そうだね。これからきっと楽しくなるよ。
突如出現した恐るべきバイラン、その真の力は、そして残る2人のジェットマンとはいかなる人物なのだろうか。寒いよ。プリプリ。
えると申すのか。
そうだ。そもそもゴーマは我々3人にお任せになったはず。
黙らっしゃい。出来の悪い幹部の分際で身の程知らずめ。
ゴーマ15世。
シャダン。しっかりね。
So, for the Emperor of Gorma, does anyone know which villain in Power Rangers used those exact robes?
Master Org?
Yes, Master Org in Power Rangers Wild Force. Alright.
Actually, before we go, because I know he transforms, who do you think this character is in what series of Power Rangers?
Well, it'd be Power Rangers Season 3, Cockpit Ranger.
You've been raising your hand, like, dedicatedly, dude. I love you. What's your answer?
Rito Revolto?
Yep. Yes, this is the human form. For those who only know Power Rangers, this is the human form for Rito Revolto. And he is the villain here, Gasha Skull, is actually my personal favorite Sentai villain overall. Alright.
が完全に形作られるまではあと半年。思わぬ邪魔が入った。
ドロップ様も痛くお怒りです。
歌えるな。我ら四兄弟は誇り高きまず最後一族なのだ。
マニューグランドクロス完成までに地上混乱と破壊に陥れる。
我らが母上大魔女グランディーヌ様をお招きするための絶対条件です。
大魔女が降臨する聖地であるべきこの星を人間などが我が物顔で歩き回っているのは放ってはおけない。
我らもっと持ってきやがれ。
叫べ人間ども。
タイムレンジャー。
第一級犯罪による逮捕する。
てめえらなんかに捕まるかよ。
逃がしたか。
Of course。
でも僕ここまでやれるとは思いませんでした。What a twist!
Alright, so that's basically a basic overview of the villains from the 90s. Did you have another?
Yes. So, the Evil Ranger team and Kaku Ranger, what are their team name called?
The Flowery Kunichi Clan.
Yes! Nice job. Alright. So now I've got for a copy of Die Ranger here.
You got one more sticker.
For a copy of Die Ranger, can anyone tell me the name of all 10 of the Red Ranger mechs?
Let's see. Gabi's Tyranno, Jet Falcon, Go-Go Fire, Gal Lion, Shishi Origami, Geki Tiger.
Wait, Geki Tiger?
Yes,
From which one?
Geki Ranger.
Oh, I meant from the 90s.
Oh, 90s? Oh, okay. Got Tyranno.
You said Tyranno, Jet Icarus,
Jet Hawk,
Jethawk,
Go-Go Fire, Ginga Leon,
Ginga Lion, yeah.
Robo Voyager, Sky Phoenix, Red Lightning.
Which is in. And then you're missing Die Ranger,
Oh, Ryus, or Star Ryu?
Ryuseo, yeah,
Yeah.
and Kaku Ranger.
Oh, Red Soraka.
Nice. So,
Thanks.
I hope you've all enjoyed this panel. I have a Kamen Rider one tomorrow called The Original Card Games on Motorcycles. I've also got an anime versus manga panel tonight, Battle of Filler, and Voltron versus Go Lion tomorrow. Any questions before you leave? All right, then have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.